5 keys that will bring him back if he lost interest because you were needy. Hi, I'm Antia Boyd, founder and creator of the Magnetize Your Man Method. And look, if you are new to my channel, comment, like, and subscribe so you get notified for more juicy videos coming your way. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, oftentimes, number 5, own your neediness. Now, oftentimes, what occurs is that you don't own your neediness. You are apologetic about your neediness. You feel ashamed of your neediness. You feel embarrassed of your neediness, and so on and so on, instead of actually owning it. Now, what oftentimes is much more important is how you relate to your own neediness, also known as the meta emotion. What is the emotion behind the emotion? In other words, you can relate to your neediness in a confident way and own your neediness and be actually extremely attractive. And that will actually bring him back. Here's an example. When I dated this guy, he told me that I'm too needy or I'm too affectionate, I need too many kisses, and so on. And I said, yes, I owed my own neediness. I didn't apologize. I didn't attack him. I didn't deny it was happening. But instead I said, yes, that is me. I owned my own neediness. And guess what happened next? He actually apologized. And he said, oh, no, just kidding. This is amazing. Like, this is really great. Like, I love it. And he ended up pursuing me, calling me, leaving me voice messages, and so on and so on and so on. But of course, like, I knew that I can't be like emotionally safe anymore in this relationship. Of course, ended. But this is the deal, right? Own your own neediness. It is so charismatic. Number 4, lean into the pause. Now, if he ran away, if he lost interest, it's because you need to fill in the blank at any given moment. You always need to have certainty. You need to know where he is, when you guys are meeting next, when he's going to call you next, and so on. So it's all about him. It's all about him. It's all about closing that gap versus falling in love with the gap. Look at it this way. Advertisers make a massive fortune because we can't be in the gap. We always have to close the loop. So what do? What happens when you watch your favorite comedy show and then it says, you see what's going to happen next week after the commercial? And so are you going to lean into the tension and say, I don't need to know that. I'm not watching the commercial. I'm just going to turn the TV off, which by the way, I recommend in general, but that's a whole different video. And I'm just like leaning into the pause. I'm just practicing, not knowing the outcome. I started doing that when I started watching The Bachelorette and The Bachelor. And I just said, okay, I'm not looking how this continues. I'm not going to read up online how this continues. I'm not going to be part of all those Facebook groups that know how it continues. And I just practice being in the gap. So you can start in small ways, lean into the pause. And then what starts to happen, it creates trust in his nervous system. It creates safety in his nervous system. And he knows that you can actually be also in the unknown, that he doesn't have to carry the whole weight himself. Now, we've discussed this a lot in my free Facebook group. So join Magnetize Your Man Dating Support Facebook group, mymfbgroup.com. Now, another super powerful tip is channel your anxiety. So you see what I'm not doing. I'm not saying, oh, just cool down, calm down, you're cool, right? Because, you can't really do that. If you are needy, if you have an anxious attachment style, it's usually running and you start to work and manage with it versus push it to the side or pretend it's not happening or override it. That's never gonna work. And it's actually gonna come across as extremely inauthentic and potentially even disingenuous. So what you do instead is channel your anxiety. So if you feel anxious, think about it. You actually feel there's like a sense of shame, let's call it, a sense of inadequacy. What do you do when that shame of inadequacy, the sense of inadequacy occurs? what you normally do is like you run away from it, right? But that's why the guy ran too. So what you want to do instead is actually lean into it. Maybe there's a deep level of vulnerability available. Maybe there's such a deep level of resonance and reception available that would otherwise not be available. Also, if you lean and channel into anxiety, you often get also intuitive hits as well. Now, why is that? Well, because you are at the deepest level of vulnerability. That kind of level that your ego would normally not allow you to get to, because it's about looking good and it's about being an adult and it's about fitting in and so on. But when you feel that anxiety, you don't care about any of that. I have also written my best poetry, even a song, when I was in my highest levels of anxiety. You see, one time I had so much anxiety and I channeled my anxiety. And what I did, I wrote down, I kid you not, 132 times. One of these days I'm going to show you the page. And it just said, I trust, I trust, I trust, I trust. Because I knew, okay, what I really needed was to know how to trust. So I channeled that and then I put that on my wall all over the room. Now, one thing where I also teach a little bit more about like how to fall in love with anxiety is my free master class, magnetizeyourman.com/3 dating webinar. All right, so let's go ahead and continue to partake. Number 2, integrate both parts. Now, oftentimes when the man loses interest, it's because there's a conflict inside of himself. There's also a conflict inside of yourself. So what do you need to do in order to take care of that conflict? Now, what do I mean by conflict? Is there's a part inside of you that wants to have the relationship so bad, that wants to have the connection, that wants to have the intimacy, that wants to have the certainty. And then there's the other part inside of you that wants to stay protected. It wants to stay safe. It wants to stay self-reliant. It wants to even keep a little bit of distance. You see what I'm doing here? Because what happens is, oftentimes when the man loses interest, it feeds into that part that wants the distance. Now, that is usually more unconscious. So when the man is losing interest, all what we are aware of is that anxious part that wants the connection, that wants the intimacy, that wants to have the love, the romance, all of it. So the only way how to take care of that is by integrating both parts. Again, I'm talking about this more in my free webinar, so don't forget to sign up for that as well. But when I started doing that work, integrating both parts, I help my women do this all the time. Look, I had one client, so crazy. We did the parts integration and she went from being a bouncer, so she felt like she was a bouncer. She was keeping everyone at a bay. But at the same time, she also wanted it, but energetically. And so after the parts integration, we turned her into a casting agent. You see, when she was a casting agent, she was still this protection, because you still have to fill out the application and then you will what? Hear from us. That's what you normally hear if you're an actor, if you're in Hollywood, if you want to be casted for something. And so she got to be the casting agent. The men still had to go through her process, but there was also a kindness and a warmth with that, because also when you go to castings, a lot of times it's a nice environment. You get some water, you get some coffee. Sometimes you even get to sit down, be comfortable. And that's the same experience we did with her. So there is magic that occurs when you integrate both parts and you avoid self-sabotaging patterns that make him lose interest in you. And finally, number 1, much more practical, be the first to hang up. So this is for you in case you notice like he lost interest in you, but he's still talking to you. He's still calling you occasionally, or he's still texting you. Then be the one to first hang up. Let him wonder. Give him space. Don't give him the whole enchilada. Change the dynamic up and then learn how to resource yourself. If he texts you, just text him back briefly, shortly, with a smiley face, that's fine, but like much, much shorter. That way you increase the ability for him to come back to you, because now you give him all this curiosity. What's going on over there? Like, what is happening? Right? They start to wonder, they start to think about you more. Why? Well, remember that part inside of us that wants to predict, that the advertisers take so much advantage of, which is called broca. It's part of your brain. Okay. And so that also works for him too. Now he wants to know, he wants to create certainty for himself what you are up to. So give that a try. And if you want to learn more about like how are you showing up in dating, what keeps you from attracting the emotionally available, quality, successful man, or what keeps you from actually like being available to the men that are already around you instead of putting up walls, I invite you to take my free Magnetize Your Man quiz at magnetizeyourman.com. Ladies, this is it for today. Much love to you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.